Welcome to the November 13th Health Commission meeting. May we please have roll call?
Grimmick?
Here.
Hisrich?
Here.
Cotto?
Here.
Ossie?
Here.
Shannon? Here. Sharp?
Presente.
Vic?
Here.
7 members present and a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from the Neighborhood Council that would like to make comments this evening? Okay, there are no comment cards for public comment. Before we begin with... Okay. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that if there are people in need of Spanish translation or other languages, the woman over here on your left is available. Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's move on to item number 1, discussion and/or action and presentation by Uduak Joe Intuk, Petroleum Administrator, Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas, relative to the hydrocarbons extraction health impact study.
Good evening. Can you hear me? No? Good evening. Any luck? Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
A little closer.
A little closer? All right. Good evening, LA City Health Commission. Thank you for having us tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to present before you and have some public participation in the process. Tonight we're talking about City Council File 17-0447, which was introduced by Council President Wesson earlier this year on April 19th, 2017. The motion went to the LA City Council Health Committee, Health, Mental Health, and Education Committee, and they submitted a report back to City Council that was heard on June 30th, 2017. I want to just briefly summarize what the motion was, because it was amended from what the original motion that was introduced. So the original motion back in April had 3 action items, or 3 portions of the motion. So I'll just read it briefly. Number 1 was a new requirement that oil and gas wells and temporary geological exploration core holes connected with oil, gas, well production shall be located within certain setback proximity to residents, including mobile homes, child care facilities, public, private schools, preschools through high schools, education institutions, medical clinics, hospitals, and similar sensitive uses was number 1. Number 2, new requirements to provide for discontinuance of non-conforming land uses resulting from the new requirements through paragraph 1, including but not limited to an amortization period as determined by the study consistent with state and federal law. And then it had a third portion, new requirements to provide relief and administrative remedy, including minimal extension and amortization period granted for the amount of time necessary to comply with state federal due process and takings law for any oil and gas operator or stakeholder in oil and gas production that are affected by new requirements in paragraph 1 and 2. So that was the original motion introduced in April of 2017. Out of committee came a report that had multiple amendments to the motion, and it basically broke it down into 2 portions. And this was the committee meeting that was held on June 14th, 2017. So kind of think of the timeline. It started in April, was heard in June, they came back to the full council at the end of June. And then it broke the motion down into 2 separate parts, or bifurcated it. In the first portion, it took basically the original 1 and 2 got condensed into 1 requirement. And that was the instruction of the city planning with the assistance of city attorney and the petroleum administrator and CAO for financial impact analysis and report back in 120 days, with a comprehensive analysis regarding the possible implementation of changes in the land use codes related to oil and gas development. That section out of committee was put on hold and deferred back to committee and was not advanced in the June 30th by the whole council. But number 2 was advanced, and number 2 was instruct the petroleum administrator to work with the city attorney, Los Angeles County Public Health Department, and other relevant city departments and other health agencies and regulatory entities as necessary, and the CAO with the assistance of the petroleum administrator as necessary for financial impact analysis and report back in 120 days of the following, and had an A through N. In the amended motion that came out by the city council on June 30th, made some additional amendments to the committee report. And those additional amendments advanced A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I, plus J. It eliminated K, eliminated L, advanced M, and it deferred N to the committee. So I'll just read through the ones that were advanced and that are being considered as part of this study. So A was, what types of health and environmental impacts can be measured at and around oil and gas wells and drill sites? B, whether what kind and what distance of setback and potential mitigation measures from sensitive receptors should be established. C, an evaluation of various types of materials used at oil and gas sites that can have health impacts, how these materials are used, and what authority the city has to regulate over them. An evaluation of the various types of drill sites, including all active oil fields, abandoned oil fields, and gas storage fields. E, what agencies currently govern or regulate oil and gas sites, including a matrix of energy, oil, and gas operations in their respective agencies related to health impacts in the city, and authorities that the city have to regulate these health impacts. The upcoming LA County Public Health Department's interim guidance on urban oil and gas operations. G, any recommendations from LA County Public Health Department or whether health impacts or health risk assessment on oil and gas drill site operators within the city is recommended, including the necessary resources and timeline to complete each type of study. H, any recommendations to enhance public health collaboration regarding oil and gas drill site oversight by city, county, and other related health agencies. I, a draft memorandum of understanding between the city and the county health department and or other agencies with suggested terms, including emergency protocols, communication strategy, and clear delineation of public health roles and responsibilities. J, costs related to legal non-conforming land use designations. M, analysis of the human rights standards and environmental standards of countries exporting oil used by Los Angeles residents. And then N was referred to committee. So today, I'd like to just give you a brief update of where we are today. We do have the County Public Health Department here, and we've also invited the public if they have input on items to be considered as part of the study. I have already received several binders and stacks of printouts of different environmental impact reports, health studies, locally from around the country to consider as part of this action or in the report. And we've done numerous things. I've also gone through and updated the city's inventory of oil wells, drill sites, gas storage facilities. We have, and I can enter into a record a copy of the number of wells in the city by council district, both active, buried, idled, relatively new, and plugged wells. So in total, we have approximately 5,120 wells within the city. We know, according to the LA City Fire Department, we have approximately 130 address locations that might have anywhere from 1 well to 40 wells at a location that vary throughout the city. And so we have approximately 852 active wells, 899 buried wells, 249 idle wells, 11 new wells drilled in the last 3 years, and then we have approximately 3,113 plugged wells that are in various stages of abandon and plug. So I'll give this to the city clerk afterwards. Want to let you know that we've had multiple meetings with various agencies, mainly the LA County Public Health. We did do a joint agency conference call with about a dozen different entities, both around the country and around the state, that participated on what their setback, rationale, policies, and environmental impact report said. We've gone through and reviewed some potential terms of an MOU that we're still in the process of. We've also met with a few of the council officers to get input. I know I did attend your retreat back in August to give an update and answer some questions. And then we also let you know we did put in a request for an extension. So we were looking for November 1st, or approximately this week, to do the report, but there's a substantial amount of data that we're still acquiring, and also we're going to have the input from people today that we want to include. So we've asked for a 3-month extension. It's been granted by the Council President's Office, and so we're looking to have the report out by February of 2018. Also, I did go look through just some local environmental impact reports, the Baldwin Hills Environmental Impact Report, the Whittier. These are, I'm just saying the first name, but these were oil field EIRs that were done over the last 10 years. There was one in Hermosa Beach. There was also the SB4, which was the state-wide EIR on regulating hydraulic fracturing statewide. And so I put together a schematic that has, by safety risks, noise, odors, air quality, of what were the distances in there. And they range anywhere from 1,600 feet to approximately 100 feet, depending on what item was considered. And I will also give a copy to the clerk to update. And then reviewed the setbacks of some of the other local municipalities and jurisdictions like Bakersfield and Carson, Huntington Beach, Inglewood, LA County, Orange County, San Luis Obispo, Santa Fe Springs, Signal Hill, and Ventura County, and put together some select California jurisdictions that have setbacks already. So we have a general idea of kind of what other government agencies are doing in their local area. So we'll also give a copy to the clerk. I have with me tonight Charlene Contreras from LA County Public Health Department. She has a presentation that will be entered into the record and will give an update on the county's guidance where they are today. And I'll hand it over to Charlene.
Good evening. My name is Charlene Contreras, and I'm an environmental health manager with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. And I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our findings. We've been working in the area of public health and safety risks around oil and gas facilities for probably close to a year and a half. And so during that time, we've been doing site visits, we've been doing literature reviews, and also, as Uduak had mentioned, we did a jurisdictional scan to see what other local, state, and regional jurisdictions have done across the United States. And so I'm here to talk to you about some of the things that we found. And so as Uduak had mentioned, there's many oil and gas wells throughout the county, and I'm going to present it in a county perspective because that's what we initially studied it. And within the county, we have 3,885 active wells, 1,736 inactive wells, and that's off of the DOGGR website, which is the regulatory agency in charge of inventorying and overseeing wells in the state. We are in Los Angeles the second largest oil producing county in California, and we have seen in Los Angeles County, we have a wide variety of operations, ranging from Aliso Canyon, the largest natural storage facility on this coast. Also, we have the Inglewood Wilmington oil field, which is a large urban oil field. We also do have smaller operations in some densely populated areas. So I wanted us to all understand that there's a wide variety of types of operations going on, and the density and the proximity to people is different with every facility. The way we got involved, our board mandated that we motion that the county develop an oil and gas strike team to assess the oil wells, to inventory and assess the oil wells in the county unincorporated area. That's where it started, but quickly after, our board motioned that we look across outside of unincorporated area and look at jurisdictions neighboring throughout the county, which makes sense, and also to look at counties neighboring in Ventura and Orange County predominantly, to look and to just give an assessment overall of the facilities. We looked at 13 different production facilities in county unincorporated area, and by looking at, as we went on site visits and did assessments, one of them including a public health assessment. And out of that report, the county oil and gas strike team released its final report September 2017, so just a couple months ago. And we made some very key recommendations to protect public health. Those recommendations included removal of by right permitting. It included setback distances, some well stimulation techniques that should be assessed closely. We also recommended air quality and odor monitoring. We looked at transportation of chemicals through the residential areas. We also recommended that pipeline monitoring and leak detection be looked at. And also, through our effort, we did not look at idle wells, so a recommendation was for further research looking at idle wells and further assessment. We also recommended a review and a change to the emergency response plans requirement of oil facilities, oil drilling facilities, and we looked at a key important area that was vitally missing throughout our emergency responses that we've responded to. Was this community communication. And it was letting the community and the residents that are in close proximity for the oil industry, the oil drilling industry, or the gas industry to be transparent about what they were doing and about their operations, and should anything bad happen, that the community is well aware of when something has happened and what to do when that bad thing happens. That was a key missing component in every facility that we saw. The other part, the second area that we were working on, or that we've had a lot of experience, unfortunately, is responding to health complaints surrounding oil and gas facilities, the largest one being Aliso. But additionally, the Alenco response that we had in 2009, and an abandoned and idle well response that we had last year, and then again, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, at the same location in Echo Park. So as as a health department, we investigate some of the signs and symptoms and the residential complaints. In the Alenco area, we're mostly regarding headaches, nausea, eye, nose and throat, and airway irritation. And based on the recommendation, or based on the health impacts that we were getting, we had made some recommendations to the Alenco facility, and that was to conduct a facility-wide audit and also to utilize the best available technology to minimize these health effects. For the abandoned well response that took place last year, there was actually 2 abandoned wells that were located in the front yards of residents, and the state was charged with plugging those wells, and we had complaints from the residents about strong rotten egg and petroleum odors They also experienced headache, nausea, skin rashes, and some residents complained that their asthma had worsened, and one actually had to go and increase their medication for themselves and their children. They also complained of loud noise. As the well abandonment took place, there was a large and heavy machinery right in close proximity to the homes. And for those residents that worked the graveyard shift or the swing shift, the construction noise during the day was very impactful. And the recommendations we made to the state at that time was to develop additional safety measures, and if they couldn't develop those safety measures, then relocation of the residents should be offered. And again, better communication with the residents on what was going on throughout the operation. And so some of the experiences we had and the site visits, the third component of what we've been doing over the last 18 months is actually doing the research on health impacts of oil and gas. And we looked at scientific literature. We looked at health impacts and environmental impact reviews, as Uduak had mentioned. And throughout the scientific literature, there were recurring themes. I mean, we looked at respiratory illness and cancer, plus we looked at a variety of neurological, gastrointestinal, dermatological, psychological, and reproductive health effects are also studied in this literature review. There was overall, what we found was there's limited and inconclusive findings, mostly because the quality of the exposure data is lacking. And it lacks to be able to pinpoint specific causes of health effects, and many studies use a distance as a proxy for exposure. So we did highlight the data gaps and highlight the need for more data gathering, more research in this area to pinpoint those exact causes. We also looked at environmental impact and health impact assessments that predict some of the impacts from air emissions, odors, noise, and vibration. And our report will be published or will be out for public review probably by the end of this year. It's the study part is final. The recommendations are in policy review. But what we also did, as Uduak had talked about, was consulting with other jurisdictions as well. This was the second part of our research. We looked at various jurisdictions across the nation. We looked at Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Maryland, Colorado, and 2 different entities within California. And we asked each jurisdiction about what supporting rationale and available evidence they used for their setback distances, and we got many. we received many varying answers, but there were 3 key themes, and some of them decided set their setback requirements based on flammability and safety concerns, like explosions that were related the minimum distance according to that. Others used air quality impacts with supporting data from both direct measurements and modeled estimates. In a few cases, jurisdictions established extensive monitoring networks to estimate and enforce their emissions released by oil and gas facilities, and those are in Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas, and Flower Mound, Texas, and we are going to be having ongoing dialogue with them to see what their data presents. The last key theme or area by which these setbacks were decided was the noise impacts. That was at least one jurisdiction, including, this was in Kern County. They did an extensive noise study in their environmental impact report and set their distances based on noise. And they have ongoing monitoring to support that as well, ongoing data. And so based on our conclusions, we think that we documented the health effects occurring alongside odors, which are often when emissions are within, even when emissions are within regional standards. And so we'll get a general compliance. There are no violations at a facility. There's still odors and still health effects that are demonstrated And so we wanted that to be known. We also found that, like I had said before, that there's a limitation in the data. But more people, including the state and local agencies, are collecting that data. So collectively, we should have some good data. Unfortunately, not anytime soon. As we collect, maybe in a couple years, we'll have more data. But it doesn't mean that we don't have enough data to make the recommendations now. That there should be. We think we do have sufficient evidence to provide health-based guidance, at least for now, and the interim guidance until more data is available. And so our next steps within the department are to release our report, and our report will have guidance focusing on setback distances, real-time air monitoring, and preventive maintenance and testing, a community safety plan, and enhanced emergency responses. Those are the key areas we'll be making recommendations on. I can take any questions.
Any questions? And then I'll go straight to public comment. Commissioner Shannon?
Thank you so much for coming out, both of you, tonight to give your report. I've looked into this a bit over the last year or so, and I've looked at Texas in terms of their setback, and I'm just wondering, it just doesn't seem, based on medical journal articles that I've looked at, based on Texas, which is, I think, the oil drilling capital of the United States, who is, recommending within their own towns now 1,500-foot setback. It just doesn't seem that oil drilling is conducive to having schools, residences, apartments near the drilling sites.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering, why is it taking the county and the city so long to come to this conclusion that other states have come to, clearly, and other jurisdictions have come to? Because it seems in the meantime, the people that are being exposed to this are primarily in low-income areas, are primarily, to some extent, where there are schools, children who are being exposed to this. And I'm just wondering what it actually takes to put a fire under this so that we can come to a final conclusion, both in the county and the city, to make a difference here and to take action. So if you could answer that.
Please hold your applause until we're done. Please, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. It was the leadership of Mayor Garcetti and the City Council that reestablished the patrol administrator function. We had not had a full-time patrol administrator in more than 30 years in the city of Los Angeles. And so we are the second largest city in America. It takes a little time to get the office up and going, and we are in the process of staffing up. Prior to my position being reestablished, we didn't have a technical professional in the city that was able to help educate and decipher a highly complex industry and situation, whether it's the geology or the pipelines or the oil wells or the refineries. They're all interrelated, and it's not a simplified process. And so we are working on it as one of our primary tasks in my office. We also have been collaborating with the county, I want to say, on probably an unprecedented level, with the oil and gas strike team, with our collaborations. We're trying to figure out the right terms to include in a memorandum of understanding. We have not had one before. Also, I would say this commission is fairly new, and one of the reasons it was established was to have venues and dialogues and discussions and reports. And so that's, I think, progress. But even looking at examples like Texas, and we were on the phone with Dallas, yes, they have 1,500-foot setback, but that's all they had. They had no other mitigations. And so, and they even brought that up, well, they're not in an urban, dense population environment. They have a much more spread out geography of where their oil and gas operations is occurring. So what might be the right size in another state or another geological basin may not be the right fit for us. And so we're going through and evaluating what is the right fit for Los Angeles. I've been in the process the last 8 months of updating our databases of pipelines and wells and processing equipment and facility locations and making sure that we have all our information up to date. And that's taken some time. It's not an easy task. There's not an already created database that you can take off the shelf or download to do that. So it's taken some time to recreate the oil and gas footprint in Los Angeles. But I think, like tonight, is progress. We continue to want to have open and transparent discussions and dialogue. Part of the reason we're here tonight is to let the community participate in the process. And I don't know of any other municipality that's doing what we're doing in Los Angeles. And so it unfortunately is going to take a little bit more time, but it's a very large and complex situation, and we're doing our best to be responsive.
And from the county's perspective, our board really wanted us to move quickly on this after we seen what happened with Aliso. So we saw what happened with Elanco a couple years ago, and really our board was asking, well, aren't regulatory agencies who are charged with protecting the health of the public doing their job? And we had to really look at what laws were in place and who had the regulatory authority. And when Aliso Canyon, when that incident occurred, it really brought to light as Uduak had said, the complexity surrounding regulatory and permitting and oversight. And our board mandated for us to really look at it in inventory. And I applaud the council as well for also doing the same and really trying to get local control on this issue because it's currently not under local control. So that's it. It will take a while, though.
Commissioner Hitchridge?
Yeah, I just have a question. In talking about setbacks, which everybody proposed, how have you thought about how you would achieve that in a dense urban area? Either you close the well, or you relocate thousands of people, which seems fairly unrealistic to relocate folks. So presumably, I don't remember exactly how many are active. There was like something in the city, I think 284 or something. But suffice to say, to create a 2,500 foot setback from that means that's moving a lot of folks or closing the well. I mean, isn't that basically the dichotomy? What's the other solution?
So we have about 1,300 oil wells that are somewhere between active and idle, and that designation changes from month to month. We are still taking guidance from the city attorney's office on how to actually input or implement any type of recommendations. Ultimately, it's up to the policymakers to decide what threshold do they want to. We can give the range or pick a number, but ultimately it's up to the policymakers and then the city attorney. There's some things that we can do, and there's some things we can't do. And so recognize that under the Constitution, people have property rights and they're entitled to use their land as they so see. And some of the situations we have are the oil and gas facilities were here before the residential facilities. We think of like Jefferson as a prime example. There was a relative setback around the Jefferson drill site that was encroached on and developed over time that brought people in closer proximity after the site was already there. And so it's a legal question of what do we actually have the ability to do. And so we'll see based on our final report and our guidance we get from the city attorney of what the answer to that question is.
Have you in the process, let's say it's a 2,500 foot setback. I mean, that's one number that's being pushed out. Have you analyzed the wells to see if any of them meet those criteria at the moment? I mean, are there some, they say, yeah, this one's out in the middle of an area that doesn't pose a problem? Because presumably many of the other ones don't meet that issued?
I'm still analyzing that, but I can say yes, there are some active oil wells in the city of Los Angeles boundaries that are beyond 2,500 feet already. So, if that was the recommendation of the policymaker or a decision, there would be some that would already meet that criteria, but they're very few.
Just a few of them.
Sure. Commissioner Sharp?
Thank you for your remarks and your presentation. My question is, are you able to stay this evening to hear the remarks of those who've taken time to join us and to incorporate their experience and observations into your commensurate reports?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Commissioner Ossie?
So I have a three-part question for Charlene, and that's one, how many strike teams have been established? Have they been deployed, and what specialties or disciplines are included on the gas?
So the oil and gas strike team is a interdepartmental strike team. There's only one. And it consists of the fire department, the health department, the planning department, our public works geologists, and our emergency management staff. And we also invited the state Department of Oil and Gas and Geothermal, the regulator in geothermal resources, DOGGR, to participate as well, and AQMD.
So I'm just curious if there was something that happened similar to Aliso Canyon, which was a gas well, gas storage well, I guess.
Right.
What are the evacuation protocols that are in place? So I'm just curious, what happens, to residents who are close to an oil well, something goes wrong, and then what is the county's response to that, or the city's response to that, to move people? Because with Aliso Canyon, there were schools that were shut down, there were playgrounds that were shut down, people were moved, farther away from work or from their home for several months, and then there was a problem with the cleaning of the houses. And I'm just wondering, just given that experience, A, what we've learned from that, and B, with some of these wells, they're in very low-income areas, and people may not have the ability to get away quickly and may not have that transportation. So I'm just curious what's in place now.
Sure. And so in our review of site evaluations that we conducted in county unincorporated area, there were no plans from the business for that type of response. Their response was, we are going to call the county, and the county's going to figure it out, or the Office of Emergency Management. But they were very quick. And I'm speaking on the oil drilling facilities that we had interviewed, were very quick to say their mitigation measures and their safety measures would never happen. And we would always talk to them about, I'm sure that the gas company said the same thing. But nonetheless, our recommendation, and that's why our recommendation was to have a community response plan as well as an emergency response plan for the fire personnel, but also to communicate to the residents in the surrounding area. And we haven't come up with how wide that circle is yet, depending upon the operations and the types of oil drilling and everything that is taking place. And so that is not in place right now currently. If that happened tomorrow, we would have to figure that out. We did have, that was the case where they were doing the oil abandonment, the well abandonment in Echo Park area, where we found very quickly that between the city and the county, we just do not have that capacity, the methods and the means to relocate people. It was unprecedented, and we had not faced that. And so this brings us back to these studies on all of the requirements or the necessary actions that need to be taken on all parts, the county, the city, the local government, and the oil drilling facilities.
And to add on to that, one is Aliso Canyon was a very unique and different situation. We don't have any other facility in the city that has that high of pressure and that quantity of gas all in one location. So there's not the same type of risk at the other oil fields or drill site locations as far as the highly pressurized natural gas that was at Aliso Canyon. And also to add, as far as the city, we do have first responder procedures and training and expertise to respond to an emergency situation. So Los Angeles Fire Department has equipment, testing equipment, gas testing equipment that as soon as they can get on site, they have evacuation procedures, they have training, they have the ability to measure what type of risk is there based on their equipment on the engines. We also have a specialized unit within the fire department called CUPA, Certified Unified Program Agency, and they handle hazardous waste. They do refinery inspections. They deal with basically any of the more high-risk specialized areas. And they have industrial hygienists, geologists on staff that are able to come in and make an immediate assessment and deal with issues. I mean, I think of an example of the Hyde Park natural gas explosion that happened in the beginning of September over in South LA. It was our fire department in collaboration with the California Public Utility Commission and SoCal Gas, and immediately responding, mitigating, turning off valves in the area to make sure that there wasn't a larger public safety or public health issue. And you might think of kind of what are the risks. Probably fire is the most dangerous risk, and then you have air quality, you have noise, and the folks who are most at risk are the workers who are there the longest amount of time, virtually every day. I mean, have different shifts and different type of workers come in. And there are OSHA procedures and safety protocols of hydrogen sulfide monitors, hard hats, it's called PPE or protective personnel equipment that are required on site based on a different hazard and risk assessment that's already done by at the federal level through OSHA. Cal OSHA is also involved in that. So, I think there's multiple levels, but we just don't have a similar type of oil field environment like Aliso Canyon in the city. And I think only about 5% of Aliso Canyon actually is in City of LA boundaries. And so it's a very, majority of it is in unincorporated LA County.
Commissioner Shannon?
When you're doing your inventory or looking at the inventory of the oil and gas wells, are you looking at the age of the wells? Are you looking at whether or not they have, a similar makeup as the one in Aliso Canyon, or for oil, maybe what has happened in other states in terms of something that is likely to blow, or certainly in the case of Aliso Canyon, I think you call that a blowout. But are you ranking these wells in terms of the ones that are most likely to cause a problem, particularly in our neighborhoods, where we could put in emergency protocols? Or I'm just wondering, because it just seems like it's potentially, obviously, what we saw with Aliso is some wells are safer than others, maybe. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I'm just wondering if there is a ranking, or if you're looking for, age, casings, all the things that would go into something potentially blowing or causing an issue in a neighborhood.
Age is one of the criteria that's provided. We have gotten our well information from CalDOG, or California Department of Oil and Gas and Geothermal Resources. Also, we have well data that the LA Fire Department keeps, and so we've been cross-referencing those. We do have age in it. We are looking at population proximity to each of the wells, both abandoned fields and active fields. We're also using the Cal Enviro screen to evaluate the socioeconomic status of who is in closest proximity, and we can do a ranking of that. But we're in the process still. There are several thousand wells and several thousand data points per well, and so it's. But we are not looking at, or we weren't directed to look at it as similar to Aliso Canyon. Aliso Canyon is a former oil field site that was converted into a natural gas storage field, but that's not been the scope of our our directed research.
Okay,
Thank you. Now we're going to go into public comment. Due to the volume of public comment cards that I have tonight, public comment will be limited to 1 minute. I will call 5 people at a time so they can line up and we can facilitate the public comment process quickly. Nancy Anaya, Shamari Davis, Rolando Salmaron, and I do apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name, Dr. Timothy Murphy, Diane Middleton.
Is it 1 minute or 2 minutes for
1
the
minute.
Wilmington Council?
1 minute.
2 minute. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nancy Naya, and I work for the County of Los Angeles Department of Public Health Office of Board Relations. I'm here today standing as a board member of the Wilmington Neighborhood Council and the residents of Wilmington representing my community. Will I have all the residents from Wilmington please stand up? Wilmington and surrounding areas. Thank you. I am here today standing before you on behalf of the Wilmington. The Wilmington Neighborhood Council previously submitted a community impact statement in support of the motion to study along with the 2,500-foot buffer. As you may already know, the community of Wilmington is no stranger to oil wells and drilling activity. It has become normalized for our youth from 4 to 18 years of age to play Little League baseball, soccer, and softball next to oil wells with only a chain link fence and a mesh covering to protect them. This should not be allowed. As a result of this normalization, our community is hurting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Davis? Mr. Davis.
Good evening. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business rep with IBEW, Local 11, Electricians Union. International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is a union of workers. We're dedicated to providing services and jobs across Los Angeles. As you see the workers behind me, we're for working families. California's oil and gas industry supports more than 116,000 jobs in Los Angeles, and these jobs help support my family, these families behind me. Any degree of setbacks will affect electrical energy and operations, which could cost Los Angeles millions of dollars in tax revenue. That helps provide vital services like emergency response. So when reviewing potential health impacts, I urge you to review people's livelihoods and the economic impacts that would plague our city if an unnecessary buffer zone were to be enforced. Thank you.
Rolando Salmaron.
Thank you for letting me talk over here. The body of evidence, that the fossil fuel is damaging the health of the people is right there for all over. Even the Pentagon, say that we, in one time, Bush say that we are addicted to oil. So we had to let some other form of energy to go, that create a lot of more yacht, but many, many more yacht, like the solar, like the wind, that we have now available. And we had to, you are the first step in this thing. You had to put the point. Even the family, Rockefeller, that well depend on this, a couple years ago, they took all the money from there and, put it in different place because the oil is enemy of the humanity. We're going to face the global warming real, face mass extinction if we don't act. Your families, you alone, you too, we own it. Very soon we facing this situation that is real. So please taking action in this.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm with Progressive Christians Uniting and also pastored All People's Christian Church in San Pedro and 20th Street. In my tradition, we learn that Jesus was a healer, and the earliest icons depicted him healing a man whose friends lowered him down from a dugout ceiling. They did what they could for their friend so that he could be made well. What we have in LA is a situation where people are needlessly being made sick. Instead of roofs dug out so that our brothers and sisters can be healed, we have soil being dug out next to homes, leading to more suffering. We are judged by how we treat our residents, and extracting oil next to homes for the sake of profit, causing illness headaches, nausea, elevated hospital visits, that fits under one word: sin. We are meant to have life and have it abundantly. Oil does not create life. It does not sustain life. Its extraction in your homes and neighborhoods threatens life. I pray that you all shall listen to the stories and voices of our community residents and make a strong recommendation of a strong setback to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Diane Middleton, and I'm here representing the Harry Bridges Institute, which is based in Wilmington, in the heart of the Wilmington oil fields and the heart of the harbor. We are in favor of getting oil rigs out of our communities. Our families are being poisoned. I spent 40 years representing longshoremen and shipyard workers, thousands, many of whom, hundreds of whom I represented, had asbestos disease. I know what these toxic substances do to the health of our children and our families. I'm here with a special message for our union brothers and sisters. We need good-paying union jobs, but we need jobs that are clean. We need a just transition so that folks in the dirty industries
Please hold your applause.
can be
Please hold your applause. Thank you.
so that folks can be employed. If Harry Bridges was alive today, he'd say, get these oil rigs out of our communities. We want good jobs and we want clean jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Damon Nagami, Leah Garland, Jane Fowler, Ron Miller, Chris Cheek.
Good evening. My name is Damon Nagami. I'm a senior attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council. NRDC supports Stand LA's push for a health and safety buffer that would prohibit and eventually phase out oil drilling within 2,500 feet of homes, schools, and other sensitive locations. Like many others here today, we are also deeply concerned about the potential health impacts residents are facing from these active oil production sites. But I'm here today to emphasize that the setback ordinance that Stand LA is proposing is not only the most effective approach to addressing these health impacts, but it's also legally sound and defensible, despite what you might be hearing otherwise. We've done considerable legal research and are confident that such an ordinance would not result in a regulatory taking without just compensation, nor would it impermissibly infringe on an operator's vested rights. Anyone saying otherwise is simply employing tried and true industry scare tactics to protect their bottom line at the expense of the health of our communities. So I urge you to be bold, and in the face of this urgent threat, recommend aggressive action. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Leah Garland, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I live next to 18 active oil wells. I'm a union member, and I believe in having union jobs for clean technology. I ask you to please support the 2,500 feet safety buffer. I've been speaking at various neighborhood councils. In fact, I've been speaking at approximately 65 neighborhood councils, and as well as their plum committees, asking them to please write a community impact statement in favor of the setback of 2,500 feet. And I am so happy that overwhelmingly the majority of them have said unanimously yes. So know that when you're making this decision, please understand that you have the support of all the neighborhood councils, that all of them are entertaining this idea, and the majority of them have already passed the motion, and the others are putting together their statements now. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jane Fowler, and actually I really appreciate the thought that is going into this. I live in Granada Hills and was affected by the Aliso Canyon gas blowout. It has changed my life forever. You can't take away the damage that it has done to my health, physically, mentally, psychologically, and I won't get into all the physical and mental and emotional problems that it causes, but I do urge you to please consider standing with LA and standing to have a buffer zone so that the next community will not have 100,000 metric tons of toxic chemicals raining down on them and having to deal with the aftermath of that. With sometimes it seems like no help from anybody. So thank you, and please consider this. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ron Miller. I'm with the LA Orange County Building Trades. I represent 140,000 hardworking men and women within the construction industry, many thousands that live in the city of LA and the surrounding counties. California has the strictest safety and environmental regulations in the nation, if not the world, when it comes to oil and gas production. By keeping the industry here locally, we are able to follow and enforce these strict regulations. Importing oil from foreign countries would mean no one is held accountable for protecting the environment, workers, and local communities. The reality is that California has 33 million vehicles, 39 million residents. Los Angeles alone has 4 million residents. Road and air travel dominate everyone's lives here. Almost everyone came here by car today. Our lifestyles are not consistent with the world free from oil and gas. Because of this, it's crucial we fight to keep the industry local and keep it safe.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Cheek. I'm here representing Plumbers Local 78 in Los Angeles. The proposed setbacks will lead to a loss of thousands of good-paying jobs lost in the industry, with even more lost in our local businesses. We are dedicated to serving the Los Angeles area, and the jobs that we have provided has allowed for LA and its families to prosper. Forcing a shutdown of production will cost the people of LA. Oil and gas production helps fund important city services like police departments through tax revenue. Thanks.
Jose Pina, Godfrey Wachita, Dave Osborne, Jay Bradford, Yolita Dines.
Good evening. I'm Dave Osborne. I represent over 5,000 men and women who work in the Los Angeles area who are all currently union iron workers. I would like to have 3 comments. Communities will be most affected by the impact of setbacks as they try to cope with a depletion of jobs, increased gas prices, and a loss of critical revenue that the city depends on. In addition to fostering thousands of jobs, keeping production in California will reduce the amount of oil we have to import from foreign countries who have questionable environmental and human rights regulations. As Governor Brown has said, the most responsible solution is to produce the oil that we need here in California as we transition to a greater reliance on renewable energies. There are potentially problems with transporting oil and gas. This is why we need to produce locally. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jose. I'm with Creed LA. It's important that we fully understand the effects of any proposed solution, including the economic effects. There's a great potential for job loss. 60% of potential jobs lost are currently held by minorities. And those are only jobs from individuals employed directly at the oil sites. There are also indirect jobs that would be affected, from the family of a worker to the surrounding businesses in the community that lose these workers as customers. The people that Stan LA is attempting to help, working-class families, are the ones who would be hurt the most. Then there is also the effect of decreased oil production. Oil demand will not decrease, and our energy independence would be badly damaged. We would have to import oil from foreign countries to keep up with demand. A good policy is based on having and using all available information. We need to fully understand any and all economic benefits, both to individual workers and to our local community and the economy. There is nothing healthy about taking away good middle-class jobs. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Godfrey Washira. I'm also with Creed LA. And the same thing, when a policy solution seeks to promote justice but ends up with injustice, when it seeks to promote equality but ends up with inequality, when it seeks to benefit a community but ends up making it worse, I think it's time to take a second look at it. Because with the setbacks, you really are, there will be job losses, which is economic injustices and economic inequalities. I'd like to say it's not a coincidence that the parts of the country that are hardest hit by opioid crisis today are the ones that we've seen the most job losses. And we're talking about careers, good paying jobs, because this because killing jobs today is a public health crisis tomorrow. It's not a small matter, and I think we should take the economic consequences very seriously. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jay Bradford from Creed, LA. The great Martin Luther King Jr. said, "All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence." If you agree to the 2,500 setback, you will be eliminating over 100,000 self-worth careers. That includes full-time benefits and retirement. Please consider the economic concerns of the proposed buffer zone around oil operations. Please think twice about keeping these careers options open for many of our community members. As a mom, I understand that setting career foundation for your kids leads to future generation flourishing results. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Commissioners. My name is Yolita Dines, and I'm here on behalf of Creed LA and the thousands of jobs directly related to the local refineries in Southern California. These jobs are among the highest paid blue-collar jobs in the country. These jobs represent hundreds of millions of dollars in wages that support our tax base. Any proposed setback of existing infrastructure for oil and gas production would have a negative impact on our local economy without taking into consideration the real costs of well abandonment as well as a drastic reduction in local jobs. As an example, the Gerald Desmond Bridge Replacement Project in Long Beach has seen hundreds of millions of dollars in change orders due to the abandonment of existing oil wells. This is one example of one project on one site. The cost of any proposed setback for the city of Los Angeles could easily reach billions of dollars. The oil and gas industries are among the most regulated in the state. The industry makes large investments into new technologies to improve safety. We should all work together to support the health of our communities and protect the great jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Asia Flowers, Cynthia Parrish, Zach Strasters, Omar Parrish, and Alexandra Nagy.
Good evening. My name is Asia Flowers, and I'm also with Creed LA. When we are making decisions that will affect individuals' lives, we have to make sure that such decisions take all facts and we know everything that is at stake. This is a significant economic crisis that will take place. The industry provides careers and stable wages and full-time benefits for working families. The loss of this industry will increase unemployment, which in turn affects a person's life, their daily life, and how they're going to take care of their family. I personally know people that work at the refineries, and they're consistently worried about how they're going to provide for not only their families, but themselves, and that's a health issue as well. This industry is critical to local residents. We please ask you to evaluate the consequences of enacting this buffer zone around the oil operation. Thank you.
Good evening. First, let me apologize because the environment has been making a health impact on my life lately. California's oil and gas industry provides over 360,000 well-paying middle-class jobs. And these aren't just your run-of-the-mill tip agency, fly-by-night, under-the-table gigs that so many of us Angelenos have been corralled into over the past 20 years. These are stable, reliable, family-supporting careers. These are the types of jobs that were the bedrock of our nation's economy in its golden era and what fueled the growth of the middle class in this nation, no pun intended. And now, with the setback, we're talking about eliminating them. The message that we'd be sending to the neighborhoods and communities of LA is that good-paying jobs aren't trendy enough to drive policymaking, and the needs of the family are secondary to fashionable politics. If not for the family, if not for the protection of our local economy, then who and what exactly are we paying our appointed officials to represent? Please consider the impact of your decisions here today and vote no on the 2,500-foot setback. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a native Angeleno, and I've come today representing my family, my community, and my city. We are deeply concerned about the potential impact of the 2,500-foot setback in oil and gas production. All available data and current methods suggest such a setback would ultimately mean a production shutdown. Even if a shutdown was temporarily, you're talking about hiking up the prices at the gas pump. My family doesn't really need that at this point. My husband and I work full-time. I have small children. And that means if there is a setback, that means all costs will go up, including food, groceries, and everything else. Also, we know that with the inflation of the gas prices going up, that means everything else as far as the market everything, cost of living. It's hard to see what's going on today, so I think people of Los Angeles, we need a break, and we can't afford this setback. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra Nagy. I'm the senior organizer with Food and Water Watch. For the last 2 years, we've been working nonstop around the clock with residents facing the aftermath of the Aliso Canyon blowout. And while I'm really happy to hear that dominate the discussion today, I just wanted to really take a moment and consider the health effects of every day living next to your mom and pop oil and gas well. Nobody should be living next to these toxins. When California first started looking at oil and gas drilling in a serious way thanks to SB4, the California Council on Science and Technology found that living within half of a mile of any oil and gas activity extremely increases your risk of health effects. That's 2,640 feet. Today we're asking for a 2,500-foot buffer. Me personally, I have family in the oil and gas industry. You can imagine how awkward family dinners can be. So that's why I want to say we are working together, Angelenos hand in hand, going 100% renewable energy, which the city is studying. We have a future for clean energy, and we can do it together. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pastor Omar Perich. I'm the senior pastor of a local church here in Los Angeles. Every year we service about 20 to 50,000 Angelenos with different services we provide. If our local government decides to approve a 2,500-foot setback, there are going to be serious consequences for my family and families alike. People like myself who live in Southern California, are already feeling the effects of the highest gas prices in the country at the pump, especially with the implementation of the new gas tax. This commission's duty is to remember the very real effects their decisions will have on their constituents and their families to ability to maintain decent standard of living. If we eliminate 100,000 plus jobs from Los Angeles, are we really doing LA families any favors? What about our economy, the environment? Who exactly is supposed to benefit from this shutdown? The fathers who are responsible for getting their families where their life takes them, as well as the wives who depend on their husbands' jobs to be stable. Ask for you women and gentlemen on this commission to do the sensible thing and negate and vote against the setbacks. Thank you for your time.
Rabia Sin, Bahram Faseli, Nancy Ibrahim, Alicia Escamilla, Nicole Wong.
Honorable Commissioners, my name is Rabia Sen with Esperanza Community Housing, a proud member of Stand LA. We're a coalition of over 20 organizations, which includes health, environmental justice, housing, and labor advocates and faith groups. We've come together for a common purpose, that of protecting the health of all Angelenos from the negative impacts of urban oil drilling in Los Angeles with a 2,500-foot human health and safety buffer, because we know that oil extraction is fundamentally incompatible with human health. It's a matter of racial justice. It's a matter of environmental justice. It's not an accident that such facilities are overwhelmingly located in communities of color. Asking the city to address this environmental racism, it's the right thing to do, and it is our moral imperative. The motion you see before you is a result of this. Councilmember Wesson stands with the community and is working with us on this. This motion is to study the health impacts and explore the creation of a buffer. We look forward to working with the city on this and are eager to see the final findings no later than January.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Thank you.
My name is Bahram Fazali. I'm Policy Director with Communities for a Better Environment, part of the steering committee of Stand LA. Dogger regulatory regime is broken. For decades, we have advocated for health protection from California Air Resources Board and AQMD, and they have said that the cumulative exposure is a land use issue. And to some extent, we agree. So it is really within the regulatory jurisdiction of the city of LA to address this issue. People in low-income communities of color, such as in Wilmington, which hosts half of the oil wells in the city of Los Angeles, are impacted by a wide range of mobile and stationary sources of pollution. You're not going to move the freeways, you're not going to move the refineries, you're not going to move the ports, but you can move the oil wells. And you have the legal responsibility and the authority to protect the people who are impacted by pollution, by adverse health impacts from oil drilling, and we ask you to support our proposal. Thank you.
evening, Madam President. I'm Nancy Ibrahim, Esperanza Community Housing, the People Not Pozos campaign, Stand LA, and I'm also a member of the LA County Department of Public Health's Population and Prevention Health Task Force. A public health perspective and the precautionary principle must be at the center of any policy debate on this issue. We're hearing today, as we heard in the health report, that there is, we cannot perhaps know precisely the causal link. But we're also going to hear today personal evidence from those living and working around drill sites that will say something to the contrary. In a field where there's been a very little rigorous study, and there's much we still need to learn, there's nonetheless no doubt that we currently know enough to understand that these operations are fundamentally incompatible with human health and residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Nikki Wong. I'm the lead community organizer with Redeemer Community Partnership. We're a community development nonprofit in South LA. The Jefferson drill site operates just 3 feet from bedroom windows in our community, and I live about half a mile from the site, and I pass by it on a daily basis. I just want to highlight that the use and transport of dangerous and explosive chemicals are inherent to these operations. Oil has sprayed out from the site. We've had fires break out on the site. Accidents are really more like incidents. They're going to happen. And even with strong regulations like the ones we were recently issued at the Jefferson drill site, it can't protect residents from a catastrophic event or explosion. If that were to happen, there will be fatalities. These facilities are fundamentally incompatible with residential land use. So this really underscores the common sense need for a strong setback in LA to protect the 1.3 million children and families who live near these active sites so they can provide and protect for their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Lillian Marenko, Bhavna Shamasunder, Gracia Macero, Jill Johnston, Monique Uriarte.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Jill Johnston. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Preventive Medicine at the University of Southern California. And I want to summarize a little bit tonight about the scientific literature that talks about the adverse human health impacts from exposure to oil drilling. Recent health studies near petroleum extraction sites have reported symptoms of throat and nasal irritation, eye burning, sinus problems, headaches, skin problems, loss of smell, cough, nosebleeds, asthma, and stress. These symptoms were more common among people living near petroleum sites compared to those farther away. Others identified neurological symptoms, kidney damage, thyroid problems among residents living near oil extraction regions when compared to those living farther away. And a recent study in Colorado demonstrated a higher burden of leukemia among children living near petroleum extraction sites compared to those farther away. So from a public health perspective, I think it's important to reduce exposures to harmful pollutants from oil drilling sites in homes, schools, and workplaces. And I have references from all these studies I can share with you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches. Good evening. Is any possibility to have 2 minutes because I need translation?
Oh, who has the
We can pause it. We can pause
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Right now it's paused.
You.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Monique Uriarte.
Hello, my name is Monique Uriarte.
Soy promotora de salud de Esperanza.
I'm a health promoter for Esperanza Community Housing.
Por los últimos 20 años he trabajado en el área donde está localizado Alenco.
For the last 20 years, I've been working in the area where Alenco is located.
Años atrás, además viví 10 años en uno de los edificios enfrente de Alenco.
As well, I also lived for 10 years in one of the buildings in front of Alenco.
Por años, nuestra comunidad, los madres en el vecindario, empezamos a notar cómo la salud de nuestros hijos decaía.
For years, as mothers, we started to notice how the health of our children was getting worse.
Empezando con sangrados de nariz, dolores de cabeza, dolores, espasmos musculares.
starting with nosebleeds, headaches, muscle spasms.
Y la conversación desafortunadamente era más frecuente entre la comunidad.
And the conversation, unfortunately, was only being held within the community, or actually was happening more and more frequently.
Para mí, como residente del área afectada, es una vergüenza.
For me, as a resident of the affected area, it's really a shame
tener que escoger entre la salud de nuestra familia y trabajos.
It's really a shame to have to be choosing between the health of my family and jobs.
Es una vergüenza tener que ofrecerle a nuestros hijos una comunidad donde no es saludable y segura para nosotros.
It's really a shame to have to offer our children a community that's not really healthy or safe for us.
Thank you.
Como madre,
your time is up, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Good evening. My name is Bhavna Shamsundar. I'm faculty in the Urban and Environmental Policy Department at Occidental College. My statement here I'll follow up on Dr. Johnston's academic studies and cover the important growing literature on the distance between oil and gas development and recognize public health impacts. In short, the studies in the scientific literature find that the closer you live to an active well, the greater the skin and respiratory symptoms, asthma, and worsened birth outcomes. So, quote unquote, close in a review of studies is described within about a half a mile. So, residents who live closer to a well are closer to oil field emissions, such as hazardous air pollutants and toxicants, benzene, toluene, ethylene, benzene, and xylene. In one study, babies born to mothers near wells found near a mother's home was associated with babies born with congenital heart defects. There's important data that found spinal bifida in babies born to mothers living in census tracts with higher benzene. So please, I will hand you the studies. I have all of the citations. I urge you to consider the buffer. Thank you.
Last call for Gracia Macero and Lillian Marenko. All right, Kathy Familiafe, Reverend Oliver Bowie. Again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your names incorrectly. Mary Warren, Maribel Castillon, Jennifer Kim.
Okay. My name is Kathy Familetti, and I'm here today as president of the Southern California District Council of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. But besides that, I'm a community member, and I work in the ports of LA and Long Beach. I represent close to 20,000 members. And make no mistake to my brothers and sisters that are here, that are unions, we are about jobs. But what I want to do is challenge us to come together, to sit down, to find a solution that works for you and works for us. Because I know right now, these drilling wells in our homes, which are 5 steps away from my house, are not good. But I do know that we need a just transition to protect these jobs. But we need to work together. In health, if people are dead, then we don't need the jobs. So we need to work, and let's come to the table and work together on it. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. We have a lot of comments to get through tonight. Please hold your applause. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Warren, and I've lived in the Jefferson Park neighborhood for over 15 years. I'm here today with Scope because Black and Latino families deserve to live in a healthy and safe community. Until last year, I didn't even know I lived so close to active oil drilling. I am more aware of the quality of air and pollution that exists in my neighborhood and have personally experienced difficult breathing and dry eyes. There are days I don't even leave my apartment because the quality of air is so bad. Ending urban oil drilling will help improve the quality of air.
Thank you.
Good morning, good evening, Health Commissioners. I am Reverend Oliver E. Bowie from Holman United Methodist Church in the city of Los Angeles, South LA. I'm standing here because our church, our congregation is approximately a half a mile from the Murphy oil drilling site, where in our community we have been impacted greatly, where health issues exist, and also there's a building that you can reach out the window of one of the residents and touch the oil site. And I think that we need a 2,500 feet to protect the people in their lives. And I'm here not just saying that jobs or environment, but I believe that we can reach a solution where we can get both. We cannot put a job over one life, for the loss of one life is too costly. And I think too often, because of our own self-interest, that we overlook the importance. We can have money, but if we're all dead, what good is money? What good is a job?
Thank you.
Dear Health Commissioners, my name is Jennifer from Physicians for Social Responsibility, LA, a founding member of the Sound LA Coalition. I urge you to look at urban oil drilling as a major public health issue in our city. Toxic emissions from the dirty and dangerous production of oil needs to be eliminated from neighborhoods, most of it happening in environmental justice communities already blunting multiple other sources of pollution. The chemicals most regularly used during operations are known carcinogens, endocrine disruptors, and harmful to multiple organ systems. Hydrofluoric acid, naphthalene, formaldehyde, and crystalline silica, to name a few. Facilities also emit as byproducts health-harming volatile organic compounds along with cancer-causing benzene. This is happening near breathing lungs. We know there is no neat regulatory fix and that oil drilling is simply an incompatible land use in our communities. Please advocate with your council members for the common sense solution of phasing out this inherently dangerous practice where it happens closest to people. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call from Maribel Castillon, Yvonne Watson, Rachel Stevens, Lovey Casiero, Nayeli Kobo, Damon Nagami.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Yvonne Martinez Watson. I grew up in a Latino community in the city of Southwest Whittier, right next to the Santa Fe Springs oil field, where 75% of those wells were leaking emissions into the atmosphere during the 1970s. I believe that the severe respiratory illnesses I had as a child and now suffer from today are a result of being exposed to all those emissions. I'm here today on behalf of Sierra Club Angeles Chapter, Environmental Justice Committee. We are also an ally with Stand LA. I'm asking you to support the 2,500-foot setback. The oil companies have known for years, they've known for decades about how hazardous their drilling operations are. And they have chosen to ignore the technology that could have made their operations safer. They've had their chance, and now it's your chance to do something to help the communities, because it's obvious that the oil companies will not do this on their own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Stevens. I'm an organizer with the Sierra Club and South LA resident. I'm here today to stand with residents who have been and are continuously impacted by the violence inflicted by oil companies drilling in and near residential areas. At a rally by Stand LA calling for the Archdiocese to end their lease with Alanco last month, I heard stories of children whose nosebleeds were so severe that they'd wake up in the middle of the night choking on their own blood. I heard of neighbors whose bodies were ridden with cancer. I've heard and read about heightened rates of asthma and respiratory illnesses plaguing residents living near these drill sites. I'm urging you now to listen to these residents living near these drill sites by championing a 2,500-foot health and safety buffer between neighborhoods and drill sites that Stand LA is proposing. Implementing this buffer will be a huge step toward community health and climate justice in a political climate that is hostile to our health and environment. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm a member of CBE Wilmington. I'm also Metro LA Harbor's vice president. So yeah, I've lived in the Tesoro refinery all of my life. I have asthma. My mom just recently developed muscle spasms. And please buffer. People of Wilmington should not live like this. I shouldn't live like this. The members of CBE from Wilmington, we live nearby the Tesoro refinery. We see this view every single day. A lot of us have asthma. I've had asthma since I was 4 years old. And we should not live like this. No one should live like this for a job. No one should not suffer for a job for a refinery that does not give a shit about our health. And I'm being realistic. Please buffer. Because if you really care about the indigenous peoples, you can honestly care about the environment as well. Thank you.
Tracy Beltran, Marta Segura, Elsa Tung, Gabriela Garcia, Art Cribbs.
Hi, my name is Tracy Beltran, and I'm a South LA resident and here with Scope and Stand LA. At Scope, we work along with residents in South LA to address the key root causes that impact our communities. Active oil drilling next to homes, schools, parks is detrimental to the health of the Black and brown families. Our families can't afford to negotiate jobs over our health. We need a setback ordinance just like we need clean jobs. And the city needs to take active steps to transition from oil and find alternatives that will bring clean jobs and energy to our communities. If you are here supporting Stand, can you please please stand up? I urge you, along with myself and everyone here, I urge you to support and advocate for a 2,500-foot buffer around sensitive areas in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elsa Tung with the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust. The Land Trust creates, organizes, and advocates for urban parks and gardens in LA's low-income communities of color. Now, we're a parks organization, so why are we here today? Well, we fight for park equity as a part of the broader fight for land use equity and environmental justice. Commissioners, 2 out of every 3 Angelenos are park poor, and it's no coincidence that the same Angelenos of color who lack safe, clean parks in their neighborhoods also live dangerously near oil drilling and other toxic sites. These compounded and multi-generational environmental and land use injustices lead to some of the starkest disparities in life expectancy in the country. Last month, the Social Science Research Council issued a report for LA County Department of Public Health, found an unconscionable 15-year life expectancy gap across LA County. That's why the LA Neighborhood Land Trust stands with Stand LA's solution for a health and safety buffer that phases out and prevents oil drilling within 2,500 feet of homes, schools, healthcare.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is the Reverend Dr. Art Cribbs. I'm the Executive Director of the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, and I'm the Senior Pastor of the Los Angeles Filipino American United Church of Christ. I'm departing from the speech that was given to me to say tonight to tell you that I grew up very close to storage facilities in South Los Angeles. I grew up with childhood asthma. My father, who had a job, was compromised at the age of 56, unable to work ever again. These issues that are coming before you tonight really isn't about jobs, it's about health. And we cannot afford to compromise people's health from childhood to adulthood because of profit. I would urge you not to support this because of jobs, but to move for the justice of people whose lives are compromised. And I thank you very much.
Victoria Marcel, Eric Roman, Rudy Rodriguez, Radhika Soni, Ronnie Solman.
Good evening. Rudy Rodriguez, business representative, Local 250 Steamfitters, representing 5,000 union members. May I please have the union building trades please stand up and show how proud we are? Union building trades? No electricity union building trades? The loss of jobs will hit working class the hardest and will devastate the working families of Los Angeles. California has some of the strictest environmental regulations in the world, and the energy industry will adhere to these reasonable regulations. But forcing an entire shutdown to production is not the answer. The energy industry is committed to the well-being of Angelenos and providing the working families of Los Angeles with affordable gas prices and sustainable jobs. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eric Roman, Stand LA Coalition. While absolutely, first and foremost, consideration should be given to health and safety of community residents and Angelenos in the crafting of policy around oil and gas, it's unfortunate at the same time to hear folks in the audience today effectively regurgitate falsehoods from the oil and gas industry with regard to the economic impacts. The City of Los Angeles actually receives no tax revenue from oil extraction. So the suggestions about significant loss of city revenue are blatantly false. When we're talking about job loss, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs. We're talking about specifically a very limited number of jobs for in oil and gas extraction, specifically in the City of Los Angeles. We believe, based on investigations we've done, that redevelopment of these sites will produce more jobs for electricians and plumbers and others than are currently created by the current operations. That's why we urge you to support a 2,500-foot human health and safety buffer. And
thank you. Please hold your applause.
Hi, my name is Radhika Soni, and I am a student at Cal State University Northridge, and I am with Stand LA. I'm actually here on the behalf of a really close friend of mine who got affected by Alicio Canyon gas leak. She got respiratory problems, and a lot of her neighbors got leukemia. Let me tell you this, that none of them had genetics problems. These problems occurred right after the gas leak. And even after the gas stopped flowing and the odor diminished, residents were still experiencing symptoms like barium that can cause eyes, nose, throat, and skin irritation. And these were found in the air particles after the leak. All the people sitting here talking about the jobs, I don't think so, that the jobs are more important than people's lives. On top of it, the people who are working on those oil drilling are also getting all these effects. Their jobs are not that important. The money is not that important. Their health is more important. So I'm not just here fighting. Well, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ronnie Solman, and I'm a resident of Los Angeles and a supporter of the 2,500-foot buffer. Where is our sense of urgency, not only about people's health, but about climate change? I mean, fossil fuels have got to go. I don't know they're not going to go tomorrow.
Please hold your applause.
I'm saying that they may not go tomorrow. We know that. We still are driving our cars. However, we have to begin to change. It's going to be a massive change. We need everybody in the building trades. We need all electricians. We need the firefighters. We need everybody on this just transition to renewable energy. And that's what we got to work on. Also, you have a problem of poor health around the oil drills right now. That's got to be addressed with a 2,500 buffer zone. Thank you very much.
Tyler Aguirre. Catherine, is this a duplicate? Catherine Familias? I think this is a duplicate, not sure. Brian Ferrer. Alejandro Flores. Catherine Velasquez.
Tyler Aguirre, and I am here tonight to support Stand LA's call for a 2,500-foot setback from oil and gas operations from sensitive land uses. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the study, but we don't need a study to tell us that oil drilling is toxic and shouldn't be in places where people work, live, and play. I'm here in solidarity tonight with those people who live in the communities that are most directly impacted. People in Wilmington, people in South LA. Wilmington especially, a community that bears the burden of all of our pollution, the ports and the rail yards. But we're all impacted by the smog-forming gases that are emitted by these sites and the climate impacts. These sites are completely incompatible with sensitive land uses, and they're incompatible with Eric Garcetti's vision for a better, cleaner LA that he lays out in his sustainability plan. We've heard a lot about jobs tonight, and I'd like to echo Eric Roman. Cleanup of these sites is going to create a lot of jobs, and I think that should be included in the study. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Brian Ferrer. I'm a nurse with the California Nurses Association. As a nurse, I see firsthand the detrimental health consequences that environmental toxins can have on people. I work on a surgical cancer floor caring for patients at a tertiary hospital here in Southern California. Our hospital cares for the sickest of the sick. In the past few months, I've cared for a patient that was 39 years old with stage 4 colon cancer, admitted for abdominal pain and died within 3 weeks. She had a 7-year-old daughter. I can go on about my patients, but my point is the nurses are asking Los Angeles to be a leader in transitioning to clean, renewable energy. We are asking you to support a 2,500-foot health and safety zone around all oil and gas extraction facilities to protect the health of our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Velasquez. I'm 15 years of age, and I'm also a youth activist. I live and go to school near the Allen coal drilling site. In the past, I've had chronological nosebleeds, which have decreased significantly since the drilling site has closed. I'm scared of this oil site opening again because of the potential harm it will once again cause my health and my community's well-being. The fact that the site could affect many youth's health going to school thinking they are safe is very alarming. There are other ways we can get our energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Alejandro Flores, and I am a youth activist working with South Central Youth Leadership Coalition, and I am 16 years old. And currently, I live near the Jefferson Orjo site, and I go to school under a freeway, which is also near the Alico site. And so I am also an athlete with some respiratory problems due to the oil drilling. And also, I want to talk about the group I'm in right now. So currently, we're doing this project where we're collecting the particulate matter in the area. This is what we're using right now, and pretty much what I said earlier, detect the particulate matter. And this is very important for the youth to know about this, so we know so we know about the damages that are being caused around us. And I'm very worried that if these oil drills, the Allen Coast site opens again, that many youth will be affected. Not only the youth, but like everybody near the sites. And I just hope that they won't open again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ashley Lazaro, Stephanie Oler, Emilio Jimenez, Maribel, oh, this is a repeat, I'll take that out. Keenan Sheedy, Stephen Love.
So, good evening. My name is Ashley Lazaro. I am 15 years old, and I am a youth activist from South Central LA. I'm here to talk about the negative effects my family and I have suffered due to the Alanco oil site that is down my block. Even with the so-called strictest regulations, my brother and I have suffered from daily nosebleeds ever since I can remember. And I thought it was normal. My mom had suffered from headaches every time we would pass by the site or open the window. It's sad, huh? It's sadder that I thought it was normal. Not only have I suffered from these health effects, but also my neighbors and my community. And that is why my community has written some letters that support the 2,500 feet buffer to protect the health and safety of others. No one deserves oil drilling in their backyards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emilio Jimenez, and I live in Chatsworth. I'm studying to become an environmental scientist. I've not lived near an oil drilling site, but I do live near SoCal Gas Aliso Canyon gas storage facility in Porter Ranch. Just a quick reminder, just over 2 years ago, the biggest methane blowout in U.S. history occurred at that facility. My friends and family are continuing to be impacted by it. Whether it is crude oil or refined products of it, the corporations responsible for these dangerous chemicals are doing a very poor job at safeguarding public health. We have the technology to completely switch to renewable energy, so please, for the safety of Angelenos everywhere, support policies that protect our communities, and enable this transition. What we do for the environment in our communities now will determine the quality of life for the next several generations. And
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Ayler, and I'm a student at UCLA Law School, where I'm enrolled in the Public Interest Law program and have focused predominantly on environmental justice issues. I'm joined here tonight by other law students to express support for communities of color who are unjustly and disproportionately impacted by urban oil drilling, and to advocate for Stand LA's proposed 2,500-foot buffer zone around drill, phase out existing drilling, and prevent new drilling operations near care facilities and churches. We are concerned about the public health impacts as well as the broader implications for climate change and the environment. Several of my classmates and I spent this semester working with Stand LA to evaluate the city's policies governing the enforcement of permit conditions on existing sites as well as permitting new sites in order to identify areas for improvement. Stand LA's buffer offers a solution to many of the most pressing adverse impacts of oil drilling by distancing oil operations from people. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Stephen Love and I live and work in City 9. I care about this issue because as an employee of City Tech stands for Public Health, Environment, Justice, recognizes necessities within the context of economic empowerment. Jobs ought to be clean, healthy, and provide opportunity for our communities rather than exploit them. That's why I support with Stand LA's solution for the health and safety buffer that phases out the preventive oil drilling within 2,500 feet from homes, schools, health facilities, and churches. I urge that the commission members to show environmental justice leadership by advocating for health and safety buffer solutions for all Angelenos in the conversations with your council members. And then also, these lives are worth more than the dollars that they put in their pocket. I understand that some of the people that don't live in the communities or stay by these oil sites don't understand the effects that they have on us in the communities, which is a big deal. So please support this and support the 2,500 feet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Keenan Sheedy, representing SEIU Local 721 Environmental Justice Action Team. Over 97,000 members in Southern California, over 65,000 who live or work in LA City and LA County. The third largest chronic health condition we face is asthma and respiratory diseases. This is a social cost. The privates are privatized, but the costs are socialized. We're all paying for it. We need prevention. We need a public health program that fights for clean energy, because the only really safe job is a clean energy job, not a job that adversely impacts other members and other members of our community. Most of our members live in environmental justice communities, and we are standing together with our communities. It's not a question of this job or that environment. Let's get away from that dichotomy. It can't exist anymore. We need safe jobs. We need to be with our communities, because that's what the future is for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. This is our last group of comment cards. Christian Guzman, Rosalie Preston, Dominique Falzone, Wayne Neal, Alicia Rivera.
Hello, I'm Christian Guzman. I just wanted to remind us all this is a health commission, not an economics development commission. However, I would like to share that for every $1 million you invest in jobs, you get 3 times as many renewable jobs and fossil fuel jobs. Also, just transition is kind of a vague term, but I wanted to share that, in the transition, we need people to work to get rid of the oil drilling sites. So they're going to be having a job doing that. They're going to be jobs to remediate the environment, and then they're going to be jobs to install solar panels or plant trees or build other renewable technologies on those former sites. So there will be jobs. I'm a part of the Wilmington Environmental Committee, which is with the Wilmington Neighborhood Council. I rode my bike past these neighborhood drilling sites to the committee to vote to support this ban, and I rode it back home. Every day I have to ride by them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosalie Preston from the Harbor Gateway North Neighborhood Council. Our neighborhood council has taken a stance of supporting the proposal for the 2,500-foot setback. We have an area of our neighborhood council that has predominantly African American residents, and there's many who have been affected by the 3 or 4 active oil wells in that neighborhood. I just want to point out that I came here tonight taking the metro, so I didn't drive my car that far. And also, with these oil wells, we have rarely seen anybody working there. They operate automatically by and large. So there really aren't that many jobs involved currently.
Good evening. I've lived in Los Angeles my entire life. I support tough restrictions on oil drilling. I'm a union member who's active in union affairs in my labor union. These union members who support oil drilling do not speak for me, they do not speak for my labor union, and they do not speak for most union members or most working people who live in Los Angeles. The oil refineries in Wilmington do not help people who are earning their living as longshoremen, as police officers and firefighters, as school teachers and school employees, as bus drivers, as mail carriers, and other people who work in the vicinity or live in the vicinity of these oil wells. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Hill. Petroleum Commissioner Joe Nyantuk's appointment was made after decades of the position's vacancy. Allowing wells to be in such proximity despite this appointment will only deepen the wedge between constituents and city officials with reference to trust and interest. If moved, LA could contract with firms and education institutes to construct alternative energy sources. If the vote is no, then cite AB 32, Assembly Bill 32, charge premium rates on carbon permits, and redistribute the profit to community members to compensate for loss in quality of life. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Rivera, and before I begin my testimony, I would like to see if I can still submit this card for Maria, who's behind me, who for some reason we didn't hear it, but she submitted a card earlier, Maria Alvarez. If not, I fill out a new card for her.
Yes, we can take her card.
Thank you. I'm an organizer in Wilmington, and every day I run into neighbors who have the oil drilling operation right next to their home, or the oil pump is right on top of their of their roof, and I find that people have been diagnosed with cancer after having been living there for 30 or 40 years, and it's very sad because it's people of all ages, people younger than 50, older than 50, so we never know what the long-term impact will be of living next to this oil drilling site. And I wish I could show you my latest video, which was last night. I was in West Wilmington where most of the oil drilling operation in CD 15 happened, and it was 7 o'clock and the truck is still collecting, offloading oil from the tanks. And they tell me that they have a grace period in Wilmington until 7, which is terrible because these people should get some relief.
Ma'am, your comment time is over. Thank you. Maria Alvarez.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es María Álvarez y vengo aquí porque soy una de las personas afectadas.
Hello, my name is Maria Alvarez, and I'm here today because I'm an affected person.
Tengo 7 años con asma. La palabra asma se oye sencilla, pero los efectos son muchos que es largo de explicar. Entonces, no solamente es mi salud, sino también la de mi familia, que también tiene alergias.
So actually, I've been suffering from asthma for 7 years now, and even though asthma may sound like a simple word, there's lots of terrible effects that I can't explain all today. Along with that, my family has also been suffering different health effects.
Al cruzar la calle está una máquina de extraer petróleo y los efectos los he mirado muy de cerca, como han muerto familiares y amigas de cáncer, seres queridos, que ha afectado la vida de sus hijos, quedando huérfanos.
So just across the street, I can actually see the oil well, and I've been able to see the effects very close near me. I've seen people die, people who have been affected by cancer. I've seen children who have become basically children without parents.
Me gustaría que meditáramos en todas estas enfermedades y que pusiéramos en una balanza que es más valorado, la vida de un ser querido o cientos de trabajos que perderían muchos trabajadores. Entonces es cuestión de pensar la vida o un trabajo.
So I'd like us to think about this, to think about all the illnesses, and think about this balance between valuing life, valuing the life of loved ones over hundreds of jobs that may be lost. So again, the question is between life and jobs.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and making comments. We had 58 comments tonight, and it went very smoothly, and I'm glad everyone had an opportunity to be heard. And now, is there any discussion or action on this particular item, number 1? Commissioners? Shannon?
Can you ask for a motion?
Sure.
I personally would really like to see a 2,500-foot buffer zone. I understand that there are political issues perhaps going on with some of the environmental groups that would rather we go to our city council members and who appointed us and urge them for this buffer zone. So on that, I would like to make a motion. I hope it gets seconded that we will go back to our appointing council members and urge for a 2,500-foot buffer zone.
I'll second that.
Moved in second. We need to vote, correct?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion on the motion. Thank you, Matt. Any discussion on this motion?
Could I ask a question?
Sure, Commissioner.
Of the representative of the Department of Public Health of the county, you mentioned that you had looked at the disease or the health impacts of this. Was asthma something that came up quite a bit? Was that something that was apparent in your research?
Go ahead, try.
We labeled them short and long-term respiratory illnesses. So yes, it's asthma, something that we did look at.
And there was evidence that it appeared to be
In
a
multiple
higher
literature.
Occurrence in folks that were in proximity to
The study showed that the oil, the literature showed that there is an impact on respiratory illnesses. Now, whether the proximity or in closer, we did not look at yet, but that there is an impact.
There was some relationship.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right. Let's go for a vote on that motion. It was moved and seconded. Oh boy, my words are leaving me right now.
All in favor. All in favor.
All in favor, thank you. So late. I'm like, what? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. In the interest of time, I am asking that items 2 and 3 on the agenda be moved to the next meeting. I also forgot that we need to approve the minutes from the October 10th commission meeting.
Move to approve minutes.
Seconded.
All righty, all agree?
Agree.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, minutes are approved. I guess the meeting's adjourned. Everybody's walking on the floor. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Nicole.